Good morning. The 49ers offseason program begins today. Let the fun times roll. Now, this doesn't mean that the 49ers OTAs start today. Remember, those don't begin until May 23rd, but the offseason workout program players voluntarily will be reporting to the team facility. If they haven't already, I saw that Taylor Pepper, the 49ers long snapper, was already checking into the locker room yesterday. Saw that on Twitter or Instagram, one of his social media channels. He's a fun follow. But the 49ers today, voluntary offseason program starts. That means the players who are due workout bonus money in their contracts, well, they get it if they show up today and then stick around throughout the rest of the voluntary offseason program. The only mandatory part of what's coming up over the next couple of months is the veteran mini camp, which happens in early to mid-June. That is required, so that's going to put different kind of pressure on players to show up. But Deebo Samuel won't participate in any of the voluntary on-field activities. This was confirmed yesterday. It was expected for a while. We talk about Deebo Samuel and his desire for a new contract. Well, George Kittle is the comp that we have made because he was a fellow versatile offensive weapon a couple of years ago, and George Kittle, he actually did participate in the 49ers offseason program before he signed that contract, but the situation was different in 2020. There were no OTAs in person. There was no risk to the body on the field because it was all virtual that year. And it's going to be interesting to me to see if Deebo Samuel participates in any way, if he shows up for meetings. My guess is no. My guess is that this is going to be a stay away from the facility. I'd rather be in Miami than Santa Clara situation until he gets that contract signed. But I think the 49ers would definitely benefit from Deebo Samuel being there. And why? Well, Jimmy Garoppolo is also not going to be there. This was also expected, probably more expected even than Deebo Samuel. He'll be rehabbing away from the facility. And that means that Trey Lance officially has center stage all for himself. Now, this is the big offseason of Trey Lance. It's his sophomore year in the NFL. He gets to take the lessons that he might have learned throughout two starts in 2021 and a lot of time under Jimmy Garoppolo and a lot of time in the NFL building in 2021. And he gets to apply them in an effort to improve moving forward here in 2022. So Kyle Shanahan has talked about it. John Lynch has talked about it. Hell, Trey Lance has even talked about it. It is time to roll up the sleeves and work. And the 49ers obviously view Trey Lance as their presumptive starter for the 2022 season. They haven't said as much, but they've implied as much throughout about 1,005 different avenues. But they only view him as that if he makes the strides that they expect him to this offseason. And just because they expect Trey Lance to make these strides doesn't mean that he necessarily will make them with their gimme strides. The improvement that has to happen here in year two has to happen in a cogent and purposeful fashion here over the next several weeks. Now, the 9 OTA practices combined with the veteran minicamp are obviously going to be huge for Trey Lance and the 49ers. But the offseason work in the facility, the bonding with the teammates, in that organized kind of setting, that starts today when the 49ers all have to report to Santa Clara. And Trey Lance is going to be the QB of the spotlight. Jimmy Garoppolo is not even going to be in the building. There was some concern that, even if the 49ers aren't planning to have Jimmy Garoppolo on this roster, even if they are planning to trade him once that market starts bearing some more fruit, once that shoulder comes closer to being fully healed and he can actually throw a football, he might still be in the facility. He might still be kind of breathing over Trey Lance's shoulder, and that's just not going to happen because Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be rehabbing elsewhere. So the stage is completely clear for Trey Lance. He has carte blanche to be the 49ers starting quarterback, not just on the field, but in terms of locker room politics and presence and, all the things that you might not necessarily think of when you just look at a depth chart. And that's big news for the 49ers. And that relates to Deebo Samuel because in the offseason of Trey Lance, I think in an ideal world, in an ideal world, you'd really want the most effective weapons and the best players surrounding Trey Lance and that 49ers offense to actually be there to work with the young quarterback in the offseason. So you always wonder about deadlines for Deebo Samuel's new deal. And everybody talks about training camp, and they always talk about, well, if this is not done in July or August, then and you really start worrying, right? And yes, because potential holdouts, which can become real damaging clouds to the football team, those are the ones that happen in July and August. But I have to wonder if this is a special circumstance, if April becomes a little bit more of a hurry up zone for the 49ers and Deebo Samuel because of the unique circumstances of this offseason. And that's Trey Lance being in this massively important developmental phase. You want everything around Trey Lance to be the way that you envision it to be come the regular season, obviously minus the rookie class, which is going to be coming in through the draft in just about a week. So that rookie class will be able to participate in OTAs. They just won't be able to participate here in the first week of workouts or so. So in the effort to make everything around Trey Lance an idealized form of the 49ers, obviously Deebo Samuel, who was the heart and soul of the offense last year, is going to be big, a potentially big part of that puzzle. So does that mean that the 49ers want to try to make this deal happen sooner rather than later? There's other reason for the 49ers to want to make this deal happen sooner rather than later, and that's the fact that Torrey Dandy, who just negotiated a record-setting contract for Denzel Ward, the cornerback, he also represents A.J. Brown, who's also not at the Titans offseason program, and DK Metcalf of the Seahawks. And the receiver who signs first out of those three is probably going to come at a relative discount compared to the other two. Now, Deebo Samuel might not want to sign first out of those three. Deebo Samuel may believe that he's worth more than DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown, and he could be the one holding on right now. I don't want to say holding out because it's not an official holdout until he's actually required to be at work, and this is a voluntary program. But Deebo Samuel, I think, from a leverage perspective, from a money perspective, if APY, if guaranteed money, if all this is so important to him, he would wait until after A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf signed their deal, and he would only expect a massively large deal in the interim before those two things happen. And I think that's probably where the 49ers are right now. Deebo Samuel probably has some of his demands. They're probably way out here. They're probably way further than wherever the 49ers are willing to go. And the 49ers are saying, okay, fine. We'll wait until DK. We'll wait until A.J. Brown get this Torrey Dandy ball moving. And then we'll revisit and maybe be able to come and in all likelihood be able to come to terms with Deebo Samuel. Now, the deadline normally, again, is July or August for that. But Trey Lance's name needs to come up on the screen. Trey Lance is center stage all for himself. If you're the 49ers, do you budge a little bit sooner? Do you make some earlier concessions just to get Deebo Samuel and Trey Lance on the field together at the same time, in the building together at the same time during this massively important offseason? Throughout today, we're going to be monitoring who shows up, who might not show up at the 49ers facility. Big question is, will Alex Mack be there? That would confirm that Alex Mack is indeed returning for year number 14 or 15 in the NFL. I've lost count. Alex Mack, 36 years old, going to be 37 in November. The guy is obviously a wealth of knowledge at the center position. He considers retirement every single offseason. He has ever since he's entered year 10 in the league. But so far, he has decided to keep on playing. And according to the 49ers and John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they think that Alex Mack will be back. They expect it. He's been training as if he will be back, but it hasn't been officially confirmed, at least to the outside yet. So if Alex Mack is at the 49ers facility today, I think that would be confirmation that he is indeed planning to be back for his age 36 going on age 37 season. That'd be big news for the 49ers. So that's one that I'm watching today. The other stuff we already know. We know that Deebo Samuel won't participate in on-field work. Maybe we are surprised and he shows up to do some off-the-field stuff, but I highly doubt that just based on the vibe of things. And we also know that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to continue rehabbing off-site, and that's big news for Trey Lance, who's going to have center stage all to himself. So the 49ers offseason program begins today. Remember, OTAs don't begin until May 23rd, and it's time for a couple of questions. Do you think that we get to see Kyle Juszczyk get a captain's badge this year? I think he certainly deserves it. Kyle Juszczyk has been such a great ambassador for the organization, a great spokesman for the 49ers in front of the media. I think that he embodies a lot of what the offense is about, and the 49ers will have to fill in for an ex-captain, right? If Jimmy Garoppolo indeed won't be on this team next year, they're going to have to put somebody else into that captain spot. A lot of times you do want the quarterback to be the captain, so maybe Trey Lance earns that here already in his second year, but I do think that Kyle Juszczyk would be a strong candidate for a captain's position. Blake is starting to get some Joe Staley retirement vibes from Mack, unless he shows up for the offseason program. Well, the deadline pressure is now, right, for that. And with Joe Staley, there was no in-person offseason program to show up for. So the 49ers were able to hide that until the draft, which is coming up in just over a week. So I think that by draft time, one way or the other, we'll have a firm indication of Alex Mack's future, even if he doesn't show up, right, to this offseason program. That wouldn't be a slam dunk. Oh, he's not playing next year, but it would be an indication in that direction. But you're absolutely right. And that's exactly what I said here a couple of minutes ago. If Alex Mack does show up today, I think that you're trending in a really good direction. As far as Joe Staley vibes, I'm not exactly sure where we're getting those besides just being a little bit paranoid. At the end of the day, Alex Mack is 36. He is an old player, right? So retirement is a possibility. Nobody's hiding from that. I don't think anybody would be surprised if he came out and said that, oh, yes, I'm retiring. But I think that the 49ers are expecting, and they do think that it's trending toward him returning based on how he has been training this offseason. David Sanchez asks, hey, David, do you think the 49ers trade Deebo if Deebo asks for a trade? What would that trade look like in your opinion? I think that a trade would be asked for by Deebo Samuel if he feels that there's no chance that the 49ers bridge any gulf in negotiations. And I don't think that the 49ers want to go there because Deebo Samuel, as I illustrated with my videos this past week and my article, the other day, they were over 4 times as efficient offensively when Deebo Samuel was on the field versus when he was off of it in 2021. He is such a major component of this offense, and you don't want to lose the heart and soul of the offense, the physical tone setter, the multi-positional weapon that Kyle Shanahan really accentuates at both receiver and running back. You don't want to lose him in year one of Trey Lance. And you know what? You also don't want to lose him when you're only set to pay him, $4.9 million on the cap in 2021. There's a reason that you get guys on rookie deals. It's because they come at a discount, and you could potentially, if they're superstars or just stars, you can extend them at a discount, right? You could still get that extension at a time before the rest of the league has a chance to dig its claws in. And the 49ers are in that position with Deebo Samuel, where they could either have him for $4.9 million at an amazing rookie deal price for 2021 or 2022. But if they're smart, and if Deebo's smart, and if everybody, comes to an intelligent compromise, both sides can be happy, and the 49ers can get Deebo Samuel at a relative long-term discount, and Deebo Samuel can have long-term security. I mean, it's in the interest of both sides to reach a deal. The 49ers need him. Deebo needs the 49ers. This is why contracts are signed, and I don't think that we should be talking about a trade just yet. I think that the bridge would really have to be burned for a trade to the point where Deebo Samuel is so disgusted with the 49ers, and the 49ers are so disgusted with Deebo Samuel that negotiations completely halt, that the two sides do not envision a future in which they can collaborate. And then at that point, you begin looking through the nuclear option, and you begin looking to see what kind of compensation you might get. But I don't think we're anywhere near that point. I think that the relationship between George Kittle and the 49ers over the course of the 2020 offseason was contentious, but they got something done. Yes, Jack Becta, his agent, thought about the nuclear trade option at a point of that offseason, but he didn't invoke it. And, even if Deebo Samuel invokes it, it would take a lot of deterioration of this relationship for that to become a very serious thing. All right, guys. Any more questions? Go ahead and shoot them my way. But it's been a good little morning show. The 49ers offseason program does begin today. Again, OTAs don't begin until May 23rd. You're not going to see Deebo Samuel and on-field work, and Jimmy Garoppolo will continue rehabbing off-site. I think both of those things were more or less expected, especially the Jimmy Garoppolo issue, because that ties in with Trey Lance, who has center stage all for himself. That's big. That's really big, because there were worries that Jimmy Garoppolo's presence in the building might throw off the vibe in this critical offseason for Trey Lance. But the truth of the matter is that there is very little downside for the 49ers holding Jimmy Garoppolo onto the roster right now, if no downside, I guess I could even say. They don't owe him any of the 25 million, I think, that his base salary is for this 2022 season until week 1. So you'd have to make the 53-man roster for that to make a true financial dent. The 49ers can do whatever they need to do financially as far as signing players by operating through restructures that they're going to operate anyway to sign next week's draft class. In fact, the 49ers are going to have to open up about $6 or $7 million regardless, which is going to have to make them go to those restructures. Restructures aren't all that penalizing, if at all, these days, because of the anticipated financial explosion moving forward with the NFL's new media deals. So you can just push that money forward. So the concern with Jimmy Garoppolo was a more... It wasn't a nuts and bolts financial one. It was more of an intangible one. It was one about Trey Lance and his space in the building and his spot in the locker room as the burgeoning starting quarterback. And Trey is going to have center stage. He's going to have full opportunity to pursue that, to establish that with the offseason program that begins today at the 49ers team facility. Our big question, I think, today that I'm going to monitor throughout the course of the morning is, will Alex Mack show up? Because if Alex Mack shows up, that means that the 49ers and Trey Lance have a veteran starting center, which is all so important for this offense in the 2022 season. Blake asks, thank you for the Trey Lance video series. Very interesting stuff after having watched him. Do you have another QB you would compare him to, or is it too soon? Well, I mean, as a player, you would hope that Trey Lance can emulate some of the skill set that Deshaun Watson brings to the table. You have the long strides, you have the powerful arm, you have the ability to combine mobility with pocket style play. And I think that one could argue that Trey Lance might be even a little bit more refined than Deshaun Watson was, just from strictly drop back passing coming out of college, just because Trey played a considerable amount under center at North Dakota State. That being said, on the aggregate, Trey is far more green and raw than a lot of prospects that we've seen lately, because he only did play that one season at North Dakota State. But I think that, just between the size and the arm talent and the long strides, the mobility that comes from those long legs and the ability to really take off and run in a physical yet kind of track athlete way, I think you have to make that comparison for Trey Lance. And it's going to be interesting to see moving forward if Trey Lance can, as a player, find that emulation. And the 49ers obviously would be over the moon if he can do that. I think I just had an article come out. Why don't we take a look here on the screen to see if it came out? It's my top 5 draft prospects. I think that I'm going to go ahead and make a separate video on this article, but I will share it with you. Yes, it is out. I'm going to share this sucker with you right now, and we'll make another video on this in a little bit after I eat some breakfast. So sharing the screen, there it is. Alex Mack apprentice, another defensive lineman, 5 under-the-radar draft prospects for the 49ers. I am copying and pasting that link into the comments section. You can probably still get onto the Athletic for a discount, so go ahead and check that out. But there you see David Bell, receiver from Purdue, a guy that ran a 4.7 40, so he's not a burner, but I think for that reason he's going to be available around that 3rd round. And as you can see, David Bell looks a little bit like Deebo Samuel runs in that picture. He gets a little lower to the ground, ready to dish out contact. He's about 6 feet, 212 pounds. So David Bell's got, he's got some girth to that physicality there. He's got some width, right? And he, I always ask the question, can a prospect, that wide receiver for the 49ers, develop into a credible blocker at the NFL level? And in the case of Bell, who runs good routes, who can hold on to catches in traffic, who brings some of that physicality in terms of yards after the catch, I think the answer is a resounding yes at 212 pounds. So he's a prospect I really like for the 49ers to beef up that X receiver position. And I think he's going to be available in the 3rd round. Anyway, this article has a total of 5 names, 5 under the radar draft prospects that I think the 49ers can go after. And I'm going to make a separate video for that. So go ahead and check it out. Glad that I was able to share it because it came out 3 minutes ago. It came out right when we were live with this video. Any more questions? I am happy to answer it. Blake can't wait to read. That is great. And I'm waiting to see if there's any more questions. I know a lot of you probably just waking up right now on the West Coast. So I know that I got aboard a little bit early for you all, but hey, sometimes the early bird does get the worm. I know you guys aren't probably waking up expecting YouTube live to be going on at 6 a.m. or in this case 5:45 a.m. Pacific time. But it indeed was. So those of you just joining, 49ers offseason program begins today. That's what we're going over. We're going over Jimmy Garoppolo not being there as expected. We're going over Trey Lance having center stage all for himself. And we're wondering if Alex Mack is going to show up because that's going to be big news today. Anyway, David Sanchez asks if I have any draft crushes. Well, I like the 5 guys that I talk about in this piece today. So go ahead and check that one out. I really like David Bell. It's funny. I like David Bell, the baseball player, about 20 years ago. Now I have David Bell out of Purdue, the wide receiver. And I think that he's a good fit for the 49ers. A couple other names in that one. Alex Wright, defensive end from UAB Birmingham. He's an interesting player. Nick Cross, the safety from Maryland. I talk about a potential center apprentice for Alex Mack. I talked about him actually also in a video last week. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. But Wright out of Birmingham, talk about an edge rusher with a ceiling. I mean, this guy, he's explosive. He's played different positions. He has some jump to him. He's got some legs to him, and he can get, he's got some strides that he can get around those tackles with. I really, really like Alex Wright as a potential developmental edge rushing prospect. And yes, the 49ers might go back to the defensive line pool. You can never have too many of those guys the way that this team is built. How much of a jump do you expect Brandon Ayuk to make this season? And will he be better off with Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance under center taking snaps? Well, it did seem to me that Trey Lance and Brandon Ayuk had a nice chemistry this past year. Brandon Ayuk would be better off with whoever's the better quarterback. And the 49ers hope that Trey Lance can take enough strides this offseason to firmly be that option for them, because there's going to be some off-schedule stuff with Trey Lance, right? You would hope, at least, with that running ability. So if there is that off-schedule ability with Trey Lance, then Brandon Ayuk and whoever else is playing wide receiver is going to have to make sure that they have adequate rapport with Trey so that they can be roaming around on that field post route, that fixed read, and so they can get open and they can make some big catches down the field. And I think we saw a little bit of that from Brandon Ayuk with Trey Lance last season. And I think that's tremendously exciting for the 49ers because chemistry is really something that's hard to teach. It's something that can be developed over time, but it's really hard to teach from an X's and O's perspective. And I think we did see a little bit of that with Trey and Brandon Ayuk last year. Good morning to El Paso, Texas. I've been to El Paso before for the Sun Bowl. Yes, the Sun Bowl. That's the event every year in El Paso. They used to have it on New Year's Eve. I don't know, with the TV schedule now of these bowl games, I think that they shuffle it around a little bit more. But the hospitality in El Paso for the Sun Bowl was always great. Not too far from Albuquerque, New Mexico, right? I think at that point, yeah. You're at the very western edge of Texas. I've been to Albuquerque too. This is a side note. I was talking about Breaking Bad, my favorite TV show, the other day. I visited Walter White's house in Albuquerque. I visited the car wash from Breaking Bad in Albuquerque. Those were all good times. But I know you're in that part of the country. You're in the Wild West in El Paso. Speaking of movies and TV shows, El Paso, you guys know which one El Paso is famous for? No Country for Old Men. Now, I know people hated the ending of No Country for Old Men, but that was a good movie, right? So if you could hate the ending all you want, I get it. It was, some hipster stuff from those directors, but boy, during that movie, I mean, you got a creepy villain, you got some good characters. What was that guy's name? Llewellyn. Llewellyn wasn't the villain. That was Javier Bardem's character was the villain, and I totally forgot his name. But I think it was like Llewellyn Moss or something like that was your hero, played by Josh Brolin. Flawed hero, obviously. I'm not going to spoil how the movie ends, but just wandering from motel room to motel room in El Paso, Texas. And I saw that right before I came there for the Sun Bowl. And this is like 2009. This is a long time ago. And then those of you who have seen No Country for Old Men will appreciate this. My airport hotel shuttle driver had a bowl cut. And when he had a bowl cut, I freaked out a little bit. And I can't spoil the rest of the movie. So, hello to El Paso, Texas. Good stuff. Yeah, Better Call Saul is great. And I just started Better Call Saul. It's good. That's my favorite character. You know, the ambulance chasing attorney. I mean, the reason that Breaking Bad is so awesome is because it paints this very relatable picture of the decay of American suburbia. And people watch it and they're like, I know that character. That character is in my community, because so many of us, grew up in these American suburbs, especially in the West. And Breaking Bad does such a good job capturing that decay and the characters that are all part of that. And, that's obviously something that strikes the very heartbeat of American culture. So Saul Goodman, who is the ambulance chasing attorney, he's covered in the prequel to Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, which has the nuance of a show that it's funny because Breaking Bad kind of slaps you in the face. It's got nuance as well. Better Call Saul doesn't slap you in the face the same way that Breaking Bad does. It's got a lot of intricacy and a lot of nuance, and I think I really appreciate that given the character of Saul Goodman. I also like Ozark. So I'm guessing that you're saying that Ozark is better than Better Call Saul, but that Breaking Bad is greater than Ozark. So I think the line of succession here, in your opinion, would be Breaking Bad, Ozark, Better Call Saul, right? And I might agree with you. Please do not spoil Ozark. Nobody put it in the comment section right now, because I am watching Ozark as we speak. And I think the second half of the last season is going to be coming out very soon. So I am just excited, because I think that Ozark took a page out of Breaking Bad's book. You have the disenchanted suburban dad, right, who's going out and turning into a criminal and getting some life out of it. But Ozark took that even probably to a more extreme level in a way, because his wife gets involved. It's a good show. I'm still watching it right now. And I think all these shows follow a similar theme. And I'm glad that we get to talk about more than football, more than food, right? We talk about food on the channel a lot, but now we're talking about TV shows. All right. It looks like, April 29th is the day that Ozark comes out. Two of my followers right here, April 29th, all going for it. So, good talk about these TV shows. Good talk about the 49ers today. Good morning to everybody, because the 49ers offseason program begins today. OTAs don't begin until May 23rd, but those workouts start today. You're not going to see Deebo Samuel on the field. You're not going to see Jimmy Garoppolo on the field. Center stage for Trey Lance, and we wonder if Alex Mack will show up. And you know that I'm going to come out with some more videos, some more articles, like the draft article to the side over there. The chat section has the link to it, so be sure that you subscribe to this YouTube channel as we move forward. All right. Happy first day of the offseason program. Good morning to everybody. Have a good breakfast. Have a good coffee. Subscribe and take care.